Well, thank you everyone for joining us here on Thursday afternoon, where we're going to be here to talk to you from SIEM to SOC, building an AI native security in the cloud with AWS. I am Jen Reed. I'm a worldwide principal security SA, and I have with me today.
Hi, I'm Manoj. I'm a product manager in the Next-Gen SIEM team, and I lead the data ingest strategy.
And I'm Rob Solomon, solution architect at CrowdStrike for our AWS partnership.
All right, and so today, what we're here to talk about, we're going to start with just a little refresher for those of you who may not be aware, what CrowdStrike's Falcon Next-Gen SIEM is. Then we're going to dig a little bit deeper, and I'll come back and tell you guys about Next-Gen SIEM for AWS and what that all entails. And then we will follow that up with Marketplace Play As You Go, which Rob will talk a little bit about at the end. Throughout this presentation, we're going to have a few demos that we're going to show to you guys so you can understand how all of this works. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Manoj.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Hello, everyone. Pretty excited here to actually share some insights on some cool innovations that we have done in Next-Gen SIEM, specifically for AWS customers. So I'll be going into the details, as Jen mentioned. But before that, let's actually start by talking about some statistics from our global threat report. AI is the flavor of the season. Everybody talks about AI. AI is changing everything around us for the better. But at the same time, it is also enabling adversaries to actually improve their game. So this particular threat report gives us some key insights that I want to actually gain your attention towards. So let's start with the first aspect, which is speed. So as per the report that we had this year, the breakout time that takes, the amount of time the user actually, or the threat actor, takes to gain access and breakout is under 48 minutes. And it's reduced from 56 minutes from last year. And what we observed in one of our customers was the user was able to execute this, the threat actor was able to actually break out in under 51 seconds. That is less than 1 minute. And most of the organization actually take more time than that to actually respond to a normal alert. Next is about stealth. Most of these threat actors are now become more sneaky. They are very hard to detect. And what we observed is that 81% of all the threat and the breaches were done without any malware. So gone are the times when we would actually use the malware signatures and the files, hashes, and everything else, the traditional way of detecting. Users are now actually the threat actors are actually relying on using phishing and sophisticated mechanisms to gain credential access, let's say cloud admin access, and somehow figure a way to actually run manual operations to gain persistence in the environment. They're no more using malware. They're using actually on-keyboard manual operations and legitimate tools to actually gain access. Another important aspect is sophistication. So AI is another tool that they are leveraging. And what we have observed is state actors, state-sponsored threat actors like famous Colima actually are using to up their game. For example, they had attacked 320 organizations within 1 year, and they have doubled the number of phishing campaigns that they are doing in the last few months. And we have seen that the cloud attack itself has increased by 136%. So what does this actually tell us? That AI is actually enabling these threat actors to become faster, difficult to detect, and more sophisticated to identify. So we need to use AI to actually up our game and use it to actually defend against these attackers. So before we go into the details of how Falcon Next-Gen SIEM would help with the exact problem that I just mentioned, let's understand how these threat actors actually behave. I'm assuming most of you are familiar with this, but just for knowledge purpose, let's go through an exercise. So in this case, we're talking about a threat actor, Scattered Spider. Many of you may be aware of it. We have been tracking this threat actor for a while. What they prefer to do is use phishing to actually gain initial access. They somehow get access of a, let's say, cloud admin user, use that to actually infiltrate into the management or the control plane, and then execute commands, for example, to create a new user, create a new VM, and then actually create, for example, download tools like RMM tools, which are very legitimate, and then create persistence and create a backdoor entry to exploit further, let's say through ransomware attacks or to do data exfiltration. So they actually move across your environment very quickly. So that actually requires, so what is the problem that we see here? If you have to actually defend against these attacks, you need visibility across multiple domains. You need visibility into your endpoints, into your cloud, your identity, and other areas within your organization to actually defend properly. And that's not something that traditional SIEMs and tools that exist in the market are capable of. So to summarize, AI definitely is improving our life day to day, making it much more easier, but it is also enabling the adversaries to gain access into our environment and become more sophisticated. So we keep asking this question, and whenever we especially talk to our customers, do your existing tools have the necessary capabilities to address this challenge? So whenever we have this conversation, we actually identify and we come across common scenarios and common frustrations which we hear over and over again. First, it is too many different tools that they have to manage. They do not have a unified platform. They need to actually access multiple tools and make it work. That means the users are spending a lot of time figuring out how to access the tools, how to integrate them. So fragmentation is an exact problem. Too many false positives, too much noise to actually analyze and figure out the true positives. It's taking a toll on the security analyst. Again, response actions are too delayed. They do not have necessarily the mechanisms to act at a speed at which these threat actors are performing. So let's understand how next-gen SIEM is evolving to actually address these challenges. So the first, generally the question that I keep asking, SIEM is not a new technology. It has been there for decades. I have been in the SIEM space for over 15 years now. And it has evolved, definitely. So the question that I keep getting is, what's different about Falcon Next-Gen SIEM versus the traditional SIEMs that exist in the market? And the first answer that I generally give is a unified platform. Traditional SIEMs actually consider detection and response as two separate functions, generally executed by two different tools altogether. Whereas Falcon Next-Gen SIEM is a true platform where it provides one single workspace for detection, investigation, and response. It does not differentiate between it. It truly operationalizes security operations or centralizes it and unifies it. So let's understand how this is actually achieved. So I'm not sure how many, I think I saw at least 50 plus hands of existing CrowdStrike customers. So you most probably would have your endpoint solutions deployed. So with traditional SIEMs, one of the key challenges that you need to perform is move all your endpoint data and your identity data into a third-party SIEM. You have to export the data. That's not needed with Next-Gen SIEM. It's a true platform. Even if you have Falcon Insight or endpoint solution, you have the SIEM capabilities built into the platform. Second, it actually can respond immediately using the sensors. You can actually block a ransomware attack rather than actually detecting it later once the harm is done. Or you could actually block a brute force attack using the sensor instead of detecting it after multiple days. Plus, we have a fusion workflow powered by AI, which allows you to automate most of the response actions, powered by Charlotte, which provides agentic workflows, autonomous response, and automated triage. I'll go into the details of this in the next coming slides. So the first important aspect of the takeaway is a unified platform. It's not a standalone single solution or a siloed solution. It's a platform for Falcon. It's a platform solution in every Falcon module. So let's go into more details. The next important question that I keep asked more often is, what exact data should I bring in to actually get the coverage? And our answer always is, you need the data that you need to actually do your, basically stop breaches. You just need that right amount of data. So that is a core principle where we differentiate ourselves from other SIEMs. Instead of actually mandating and ingesting logs indiscriminately, our focus is on getting the most important data set so that you can actually stop your breaches. Now, what do I mean by that? So with Falcon platform, we out of the box provide coverage in terms of threat intelligence, exposure, endpoint, cloud, identity, and IoT. They're already available without any additional cost. We also provide mechanism inside Next-Gen SIEM which allows you to seamlessly ingest third-party data through out-of-the-box integrations, which we call as connectors, parsers, and we now acquired a new data ingestion pipeline, which allows you to stream real-time data into Next-Gen SIEM. So instead of actually asking the users to ingest indiscriminately, our focus is making sure that you bring the right data and augment already available data inside Falcon platform. So that's another core principle where we differentiate ourselves from other SIEMs. The third, AI. AI is I would say, tool that we use inside Falcon platform at every step. We have a workflow designed for analysts so that they can actually perform detection, investigation, and response in a very efficient manner. So let's understand how this actually happens. The whole journey for an analyst starts from analyzing the appropriate alerts. How do they do that? We have out-of-the-box machine learning algorithms, which allows us to risk score any given alert, assign it, and surface it for the analyst to actually focus on the right high-priority alerts that he needs to work on, instead of actually working across all the sea of noise that he is provided. So and then again, AI provides, Charlotte AI enables automated triaging so that additional information and appropriate insights is provided for the user so that they can actually perform the necessary steps to remediate a risk. Third, we actually provide a workbench where user security analysts and the SOC team members can collaborate on a given area. We call that as incident workbench. It is actually supercharged by Charlotte AI, providing insights at regular intervals at right point of time, providing insights, suggestions, and recommendations of how to remediate the risk. And all of this is built on top of AI-powered Fusion SOAR platform, which allows you to automate your responses within CrowdStrike and outside using integrations, agentic workflows, playbooks, and case management. So to summarize, basically, we have a unified platform. We focus on bringing the right data. Instead of quantity, we focus on quality and relevance. We actually have an AI-powered threat investigation workflow, which makes the life of a security analyst much more simpler and easier so that they can focus on the right alerts. Now, you don't have to take my word for that. We actually have evidences because over thousands of large customers across different industries, whether it's healthcare, whether it is tech or manufacturing, have actually leveraged the capabilities of Next-Gen SIEM within 1 year of our launch and have transformed their SOC. They're not simply replacing the tools. They're actually consolidating their stack, the security stack. They're eliminating point tools. And they're able to use the AI built into our platform to actually empower the security analyst. So let's look at some more stats to just cement what I just stated. Based on the analysis of all our existing install base, what we have observed is that our CrowdStrike customers are able to consolidate over 15 plus tools and have a standardized security stack, making it seamless for the security users and SOC operations to execute. What we have also observed is we have been able to reduce false positive by 95%. We have been able to ensure that security analysts are focusing on the most critical alerts needed for their organizations. And most importantly, it is built at a speed and scale that is needed for today's time and for future. In fact, the statistics that I have here, which says 11 petabytes a day, is pretty old. We are growing on a day-to-day basis, and today we have crossed 20 petabytes a day. The same is also actually, for example, not only have the statistics support my assertion, but what we have also seen that industry has recognized these aspects also. We have been named as a leader within a year in GigaOm's SIEM Radar report. We have been also awarded the Innovators Award, and we've been already in a visionary quadrant in Gartner's Magic Quadrant this year. So basically, it summarizes the benefits of Falcon Next-Gen SIEM. Now you may be actually thinking and wondering, how is it relevant for AWS customers, and what did we do differently? The capabilities that I just described about Falcon Next-Gen SIEM is relevant for every CrowdStrike customers. But what we did by partnering with AWS is to actually build an experience curated for the AWS users. So we are going to elaborate in more detail with demos about it, but let me start with some critical use cases. So what are we trying to solve here? So one of the key challenges, which I assume most of you would agree is that actually is a challenge that you may be facing today, is first, fragmented tools. So this is not specific to just enterprise customers. We have observed this with startups and small customers, SMBs, where you end up having multiple tools. You have a tool for endpoint, you have one for cloud security, you may have one for identity and so forth. You need to work across all of them. So that introduces additional latency and overhead for every security analyst. Next, limited context, the big picture problem. Most of the tools actually lack the necessary context needed for a security analyst to make the right decision and take action. What do I mean by that? So let's take an example. So whenever there is an incident, there is an alert, we would like to understand the assets related to that particular event. Who's the owner? What sensitive data is actually either stored in that particular asset or linked to it? This will allow us to understand the impact of the possible threat. That information is not available in traditional SIEMs or solutions or point solutions that we have. Third, the systems are disconnected. The security signals are not correlated across domain and requires manual analysis. So it's like piecing a puzzle every time you see an alert, because you need to figure out if an alert in cloud and identity are related to each other or not, and user needs to do this manually. This all leads to delayed response, increased mean time to respond and detect. So what we ideally need is to move away from a fragmented security to an integrated security. So instead of having multiple tools, you need a unified solution, a platform, which brings all these tools together. Instead of doing manual analysis, we need automated detection and correlation, where security signals from different domains are correlated out of the box. And we need a system which can actually add the context needed for security analysts to do the investigation. And streamlined response and response at speed is what is needed for an ideal solution to work. So a lot of theory, a lot of concepts, but it was important to set the context so that you understand what is the problem that we are trying to solve. Now let's actually see what we have done differently to address this use case specifically for AWS customers. So we have the Falcon Next-Gen SIEM built for enterprises. We have partnered with AWS to make sure that it can be enabled for SMBs and startups seamlessly and integrated into AWS services in a simplified manner, which removes any manual intervention, provides automation, such that you can actually start seeing value within minutes of subscription. You see the data coming in, triggering detections in matter of minutes. As part of this, what we have done is integrated into the AWS CloudTrail, Security Hub, and Guard Duty to begin with. We launched this offering on 1st of December here at re:Invent. We will go into the details of the technical aspects. Jen will be actually going into the details of what we did at the background to make all of this work. But at short, what we are able to do is, as soon as you configure or subscribe to Falcon Next-Gen SIEM, we have services built in to integrate into these AWS services and bring in real-time alerts from your Guard Duty, CloudTrail, and Security Hub, automatically detect and show the alerts in your detection console, respond to those triggers automatically. All of that done in minutes. I will skip the technical details and let Jen go into the details, but let's see how this particular solution will actually work in a real-world example. So let's take an example of a threat actor by the name Curly Spider, specializing in finance and e-crimes. So basically, their motto is very similar to the scattered spider, I would say the tactics are very similar to the scattered spider. What they do actually is rely on phishing, very sophisticated campaigns to get credentials. It all starts from there. Once they gain initial access, they create persistence by creating new users, launching a VM, downloading necessary tools, all looking as legitimate. Now, if this is a scenario that is happening in your cloud environment, let's say AWS, how does this solution help you detect that? So as you can see, there are multiple services in play. AWS already has necessary detections in place in different aspects. CloudTrail, for example, would detect unusual login patterns. GuardDuty is going to detect a suspicious privilege escalation. So whenever the threat actor tries to create an IAM profile with admin privileges, it will trigger an alert. And similarly, Security Hub would detect any misconfigurations or scenarios where there are overly permissive network access rules. So these alerts are already coming from AWS services into next-gen SIEM in near real-time manner. At the same time, Falcon modules are also able to detect other signals, for example, other scenarios. For example, next-gen SIEM would generate an alert for unusual RMM activity. So whenever it sees an RM tool activity in a node which is suspicious, it is going to generate an alert. Similarly, it generates an alert for any data exfiltration pattern that it sees, which is attempted by the threat actor, and also generates an alert for any curl download operations. The interesting part is it is already taking response actions as soon as it sees these behavior, but I'll get into it. But before doing that, all of these alerts came from different services, but Next-Gen SIEM is able to correlate all of them as a single threat activity, assign it to a single case, use Charlotte AI to provide a summarized view of what that means, recommendations of what steps you need to take to mitigate that, and also trigger any automated response actions to stop these threat actors. For example, it will remove or restrict the access of the user that was created, isolate the VM that was which was provisioned. All of these actions will be automatically triggered by the Fusion SOAR response action. So this is what we are launching here, where we have an completely automated solution which is able to correlate alerts from AWS, from Falcon modules, and any other third-party modules, and give you a complete picture. So let's actually see this in a demo in real action. So we'll take the same example that I talked about. We are using a recorded demo, so I'll just voice over it. So we have Curly Spider, who has already gained access, and they have actually logged into the control plane, created a new user. They generated SSH key pairs, and they also provisioned a VM, and also created a new user for that VM with admin privileges. So as soon as all of these operations are done, out-of-the-box integrations in Next-Gen SIEM will bring in all the necessary security signals from all the required AWS services, and will be able to detect all the activities and the API activities and correlate all of them together. For example, there is an out-of-the-box detection, which will trigger an alert on the suspicious access privilege activity the user performed. It will also identify the EC2 operation that was performed. And all of these are correlated because it has the necessary context. It is able to identify the detection that happened at the cloud and identity and correlate them at real time and generate a detection. And as soon as it does, it automatically triggers a pre-configured response workflow, which will take the necessary actions to stop the breach by restricting the access and stopping the VM from creating. Charlotte AI, at the same time, provides all the necessary insights and summary for the analyst to work on and perform additional investigation. It will provide all the associated asset information. It provides recommendation that the user can follow. It is also very easy for the security analyst to perform the investigation right here at the workbench. So they can select any entity and actually go and look at every security event associated with that. The solution also comes with out-of-the-box detection rules and dashboard that provides you a complete unified view of all the activities, all API queries or API invocation that is happening in the system. So AWS and Falcon Next-Gen SIEM together, with this integration, is able to perform continuous cloud detection and response as a continuous operation, and is able to detect and remediate within seconds in near real time. So that's a solution that we are proposing and launching here and is available for customers to actually benefit from. So with that, we'll go into the details of how this is all made possible. I will welcome Jen to share more details.
So you might be wondering, how did we make this easy? So 6 months ago, when we proposed this to the CrowdStrike team of, what we want to do is make SIEM easy. And the problem was that SIEM isn't easy. But what if we could make it easy? Because at AWS, we really understand how to really automate and simplify the onboarding of AWS organizations and AWS accounts and resources. If we take that and integrate it with what CrowdStrike's really good at, which is threat detection and response, and we marry those together, I really believe that we can make SIEM easy. And that's what we've launched. And so what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit more for the existing customers of CrowdStrike, how we made that easy for you within the Falcon console, and then I'll take a step back for that and actually explain what we launched on November 19th that makes that happen. And then I'm going to talk about, for new customers, how you discover it, how that integrates with AWS Security Hub, then how that integrates with Marketplace, and if you haven't used the CrowdStrike console and you're brand new to CrowdStrike, how we make that onboarding experience easy through the AWS Marketplace, so you don't have to start by learning the Falcon console, but you can actually start by deploying, and then it will pivot you right into the Falcon console and show you how to make use of that data. And more importantly, AI Investigator is part of that, so if you or your team are new to incident response or an analyst team, so maybe you have some cloud SecOps team members who aren't necessarily analysts, it gives you a really good way to enable them to understand what they're seeing and what next steps they should take. So how did we make that easier? How did we make that simplification journey easier for the existing CrowdStrike customers? Well, within the Falcon console, there is a quick start for AWS. And so what this is it's inside of the data connectors page, there is a button that says quick start for AWS. And when you click that, that's going to take you into an experience that shows you CloudTrail, GuardDuty, and Security Hub. But for those of you who maybe are a CrowdStrike customer Next-Gen SIEM, but you felt very overwhelmed by onboarding AWS, because the truth is it can be a little difficult, because our best practice is to have a multi-account structure. And with that, we have AWS organizations. So for a security team that maybe isn't trained in AWS, it can be really, really challenging to figure out, well, how do I connect? Where do I connect that to? And what's the data that I need? And so for that, we made that easy by giving you a button that says, connect my AWS organization to the management account. You provide that management account information, and then with that, it's going to then connect to AWS and start to pull in that information and do that automated asset discovery of the AWS organization for security analysts that aren't that well versed in AWS. And a key part to make that happen is the service that we delivered in November 19th, which is AWS IAM temporary delegated permissions managed by partners. And so what this does is when you click that button and you provide your AWS account number for your management account, that will actually send a message to the delegated administrator for the AWS management account, requesting permission to add a read-only role so that the Falcon platform can understand where is CloudTrail deployed. If I have GuardDuty or Security Hub deployed, what AWS account is that deployed in? Which regions is it deployed in? Have I consolidated to a single region for Security Hub so I have a home region? All of these questions would normally take 3 to 6 months of your security team talking to your cloud ops team to create a plan in order to do this deployment. And so trying to remove that friction is what we really wanted to make happen when we provided this IAM delegated temporary permission. Now, this doesn't mean you're giving CrowdStrike the permission to add roles whenever they like. It's only a permission for the next, when the administrator approves it, for 120 seconds for them to actually initiate the request that then goes back and actually triggers the CloudFormation template stack sets to actually get deployed into your account. And what that does is it really makes sure you have the visibility to understand what was deployed, and they can actually look at that. But then if ever you want to look back in time, it's in that account where it was deployed, what was deployed, and how it was deployed. And this is the demo. Yes. So in this example is inside of the next-gen SIEM when you first log on, and you see that on here, these are the number of detections. And when you actually first log into Falcon Next-Gen SIEM and you've deployed and you're a new customer, it will actually have a link that tells you more about the documentation, just logging in. And this is the Next-Gen SIEM onboarding guide that tells you detail. All of this would be available inside of the Falcon console. Actually explains in detail with all the documentation and videos to follow along so that you can understand how to do detection and response, triage, set up workflows, set up automation. And then there are a number of additional quick start guides which are also more about the different Falcon modules that you can use. But in this example here, what I'm going to go over to is going to the data connections page. Getting there. As you can see, there are a lot of components to the Next-Gen SIEM. And here you can see the actual Quick Start tab. Sorting it by CloudTrail. And you can see this CloudTrail and Guard Duty itself. Clicking on the Quick Start. On here, you can see that it's already connected to one active CloudTrail, and it shows another one disactive, as well as all of the active Guard Duty and Security Hub connectors that are automatically deployed. At any point in time, you can disable one of the data connectors, and it's immediately disabled. No further data is coming in to Next-Gen SIEM. But then when I want to turn on, say, an inactive service after asset discovery, it actually issues a temporary permission request. And when you click on it, it actually sends a redirect link. This is what the administrator would see inside of the IAM console. You can see someone has issued a temporary delegation request. And when they actually click that, it'll actually show them what permissions they're requesting and what's the temporary permission that they're requesting that's only going to be for the 120 minutes that it was enabled, so that they can actually create the role, what role they were creating it in, what account it was creating in, as well as the permission boundary, so it doesn't allow runaway access. Now, each of these temporary permission requests have been submitted by ISV vendors in advance for security review by AWS with the appropriate permission boundaries. So from that perspective, we're checking to make sure that these permission requests are not overly permissive, so you're not necessarily giving ISV vendors access that is inappropriate. Then once that permission request has been approved, it'll actually show that it's deployed. These are the number of different states that that status can show, so you can understand if the admin rejected that request. You can also understand if it timed out, so you can reissue it. And then once it's active, you'll actually show on that page at the bottom the active, going from deployed to active state again. So for new customers that do not use the Falcon console, we have a number of ways you can find that. Number one is through the AWS Marketplace, but also inside of AWS Security Hub in the management section, there is a integrations tab, and within that there is a tile for the Falcon Next-Gen SIEM for AWS. Inside of Marketplace, when you click on that, it will send you to the same page within AWS Marketplace, for which you can then deploy. Now, this is the demo of that end-to-end. So say you're in AWS Security Hub, and you go to that management section. Inside of that management section, you can type CrowdStrike or Falcon. You can click Purchase or Configure, and that will actually take you to the Marketplace page. You can click and review that page. Click View Purchase Options. And once you click the View Purchase Options, you'll actually see the metrics you'll be charged for consumption. There you can see it's per gigabyte for ingestion, and then there's also some cloud workload protection that Rob will go into further. Once you accept that and subscribe, and you click on Set Up My Account, this is the page of what will actually begin the verifying the permissions that you would need to deploy this. In the Marketplace, initially, it would be deployed out of the management account. It reminds you that because it needs to be the head of the organization. And then it'll actually pivot you to the Falcon page to actually register as a new customer. Once you provide your information on this page, it will actually submit that to CrowdStrike. And then in CrowdStrike, they'll start to auto-provision your SID for you, your customer ID. And then it will send you emails telling you the status of that. And so here's an example of the emails. First, you're going to get an email from the AWS, or your billing contact will get an email from AWS Marketplace saying that you have subscribed. You'll then get a welcome email from CrowdStrike as a pay-as-you-go customer, and then you'll get an activation link. Once you click on that activation link, you will go ahead and provide a password and MFA for your account, and then it will log you in. Now, once you complete those portions and you refresh the bottom of the page, it'll actually take you to the auto-configure component. Now, it's going to default to the region you're in when you're deploying this. Now, you can specify a different region you want it to run in, but by default, it's going to detect the region that you're in. It's also going to detect all of the CloudTrails that you have configured, selecting your organization with management events. Now, the reason we want to provide this to CrowdStrike is because management events inside CloudTrail is every API action that happens inside of AWS. So if I want to know when someone's provisioned something, if I want to know when someone's creating something new, when someone changes something, it's always going to get recorded in CloudTrail first, coming across the event bus. And so getting that information as soon as I can over to my SIEM so I can start analyzing that quickly is really important. And then if the customer has Guard Duty or Security Hub enabled, that's set up so it deploys those via Amazon Event Bridge so that those events, as they're occurring and being logged to the default event bus within AWS across your organization, that is going to be sent immediately, put on the event bus for CrowdStrike SIEM so that it picks that up and can respond in real time. Now, once the integration is complete, this takes about 10 to 15 minutes. You have a link where you can click on, and it'll take you to the stack sets in CloudFormation, so you can see everything that was deployed, how it was deployed. And for here, when it comes to Guard Duty and Security Hub, it's not that we're changing the configuration or modifying the configuration of any of those, but we're just determining which AWS account that might be delegated to, as well as the region or regions it's deployed into, so that we can deploy these Amazon Event Bridge rules so that we can start sending those. And then once you go back, you can also click on the Launch CrowdStrike, and that will take you to the login page to the data connections. And within data connections, once again, going here, you can see the CloudTrails that were enabled, as well as those that it might have discovered later. The same thing with Guard Duty and Security Hub. And with that, talking a little bit more about the pay-as-you-go, it's Rob.
Thank you. Thanks, Jen. Most of you are already CrowdStrike customers. Thank you very much. But there are folks here who are not CrowdStrike customers. And we wanted to make all of this easier for the AWS customers, for people who are just starting to onboard. Now, everybody here who's an AWS customer, like, why did you move to AWS in the first place? Why did you start building there? Why did you migrate? It's a lot of different reasons, but at the end of the day, AWS allows you to move more quickly. It simplifies your operational burden. You're able to render your infrastructure as code. You're able to scale out, scale in. You're able to launch in other regions. That ability to move quickly is a differentiator for companies today. Now, if you don't have security, it's very, very difficult to get all of those benefits because your security team is going to slow you down at every step. You're probably the security team, you know what I'm talking about. If there is not that security in place, how do you know that these developers who are building infrastructure are actually applying security best practices? And even if they are, how do you know that those controls are being deployed at scale across your whole organization? Now, when security is in place and it is able to automatically scale in response to resource provisioning events, and you know that it is being uniformly deployed across your environment, in those situations, security is a catalyst. Then you're able to move fast, you're able to grow fast, you're able to get all of the benefits of what you have done in AWS. So we wanted to make the Falcon platform, and we've been partnering with AWS for years, and we have over 110 integrations. So we've been building hard and fast to make it really valuable for AWS customers. So we realized in order to reach customers who are not ready to sign an annual contract, in order to match the universal common procurement method at AWS, which is to say consumption billing or pay-as-you-go, we realized how important it was to offer that to AWS customers. Now at launch, our pay-as-you-go offering is intended for net new customers. If you were already an AWS customer and you want to try out any of these new capabilities, then we recommend talking to your sales rep. If you're a new customer, you can get started in minutes. With no spend commitments, you are charged literally, as Jen said before, per gigabyte ingested for ngSIM. And when we say per gigabyte ingested, that is a flat fee. It's not, okay, it's a gig here, and then there's some additional costs, for retention, additional costs for all of your queries and dashboards. No, it's a single flat fee for your data ingestion. And when we talk about how easy we made it to ingest AWS data, the simplification wizards, you can ingest any data that ngSIM supports. And we have, I think, approximately 200 data connectors built for a wide range of data sources. So we have per gig pricing for ngSIM, and it always includes 13-month retention. We also include in the same listing Falcon Cloud Security Runtime. Now you know about the Falcon sensor. Falcon Cloud Security Runtime is that sensor component that deploys in EC2 instances and container environments or Fargate. And it also includes container image assessment at every phase in the software development lifecycle. So something that can run on the IDE of the developer station, or in a CI/CD pipeline, or even registry, ECR registration. We can do it all in all of those places, and then you can build policy off of the findings of that image assessment. So the benefit of this for customers is, again, instead of going through a multi-month sales cycle, you can deploy in minutes. Now, Jen was showing you the workflow through Marketplace. Once customers submit that input form data, essentially we need your email address because that's how we allocate permissions. It takes the fastest we've seen, and probably on average is about 10 to 15 minutes for all of the provisioning. So we want to get you protecting your workloads as quickly as possible. Again, there are no spend commitments, and we provide very transparent public pricing to allow you to align your spend with consumption. Now, what is Falcon Cloud Security? Now, if you're familiar with this module, we sell it in different flavors. There's really the proactive component, and there's the cloud runtime component. Cloud runtime component is really more reactive, so the sensor's running on your workloads, watching all of the events that are happening on your host, in your system. We take all of that information, and the sensors themselves are able to process about 92% of everything that comes through there, and make a positive determination about whether some suspicious activity might be malicious. And if it is malicious, you can create your own prevention rules that will stop the attack in progress without any additional effort. Even out of the box, we're doing that, but you have the ability to really tighten those rules based upon your particular workload and environment. On the proactive side, we're collecting information about your CSPM, basically your cloud security posture management. And that entails pulling in CloudTrail through EventBridge, so in near real time we can see if there are any indicators of an active attack, and we can look at your configuration of your AWS services and make sure that they are configured according to security best practices. Proactive security includes a lot more than that, including data security posture management, AI security posture management, and so on. So in this release, cloud security runtime protection that you see on the right. In a future release, we'll be including proactive security. But just to give you an idea about what Falcon Cloud Security actually is. We have a lot of studies. Since we've been releasing this, we talk to customers about the actual outcomes that they've experienced. We have a team that does business value assessments so that we can provide some metrics around the improvements that companies of similar sizes are able to see. So you can see things like a 98% reduction in critical vulnerabilities on the proactive side. On the runtime side, 89% faster cloud detection and response. And when you think about a number like that in the context of how fast these attacks proceed, as Manoj mentioned before, on average, 48 minutes from initial access before the attacker moves laterally, 51 seconds before the attacker can move laterally is the fastest that we've seen before. It's imperative that teams are able to move quickly. And we do that, again, through that automated capability that the sensor is able to do all by itself. And we're able to do it through the implementation of agentic workflows and capabilities that we provide, again, that allow you to accelerate these investigations. So just to summarize, Falcon Cloud Security Runtime Protection, what are the capabilities that we're offering? Threat intel and threat hunting is really underpins everything we do across the whole platform. So we're tracking adversary activity. We track over 250 adversaries, so we understand exactly the industries or organizations that they typically target, as well as their very specific tools, tactics, and practices, so that we can anticipate what they're likely to do, and when we start to see a series of behaviors, we can figure out what they're probably going to do next, so that we can identify and anticipate and block those kinds of attacks. Cloud workload protection, again, that's the sensors deployed on the workloads themselves that not only can take that independent action, but take that that are also taking events and sending them up to the cloud for further analysis. Anything that's going on that we don't understand, we're not sure if it's an attack, we haven't seen it, we don't know that it's positive, okay or neutral, we'll send that up to the cloud, and in milliseconds we can return a response so that, that your sensor can take appropriate action. Cloud detection response is a new and developing capability. This was one of our announcements. Cloud detection response is that we're able to take all of the telemetry across the entire cloud estate, and we can determine through that overall context and through subtle signals whether there's an actual attack in progress. And what we just announced in the last few days, that we're going to be pulling into it will be part of pay-as-you-go, within the next couple of months, is real-time cloud detection and response, where we're able to take that CloudTrail stream and correlate it with other signals we may have to say, it's not just that we see this particular one thing happening in CloudTrail, but it's that we see a chain of behaviors that in and of themselves are indicative of an attack. And Curly Spider, I think, was a really good example of the kind of signals where we would take all that cloud information and show you that there's an attack in progress, and then automate a response that you can set up the automation in advance. And again, Falcon Overwatch and Complete. You move to the cloud, maybe you've just done a migration, maybe your security team is a little bit stretched or just getting up to speed with the cloud. You can accelerate your migration, or if you have a small team that you don't want to try to staff a team for 24/7, 365 operations, we provide a portfolio of managed services, including managed detection and response, that's Falcon Complete, managed threat hunting, that's Falcon Overwatch. If you purchase Complete, Overwatch is included, but you can purchase Overwatch separately. Why is Overwatch important? Right? There's a lot of data here. NG-SIEM, Next-Gen SIEM, is a place to correlate that data. We provide those rules. We provide the correlation rules, we provide the automation, but if you want us to manage that, we can do that for you. If you want us to do the threat hunting, correlating all the signals, we can do that for you. At launch, we have, as Jen described, we have created data onboarding simplification. That data onboarding process can really slow companies down, so we wanted to make that easy so you can start getting value as quickly as possible. Now, in a later phase of our pay-as-you-go strategy and roadmap, we are planning to add that level of automation, so post pay-go purchase, you'll be able to roll right into multi-account org-wide sensor deployment. Now, that capability is not in marketplace today, but what we announced 2+ years back is a partnership with AWS, where we built a set of CloudFormation templates called AWS Built-in, that enables that multi-account organization-wide deployment of sensors using SSM Systems Manager. We have a published distributor package. You can create those automations, deployment on EKS and other container environments, multi-account ECR registration, multi-region, multi-account ECR registration. All of these exist, and the documentation that Jen was showing before also includes how to use these features. Now, one of the things that I'll say is this is continuous protection. When you deploy these templates in CloudFormation, we also have them in Terraform. They not only protect the resources that you already have deployed, but they also deploy Lambda functions and so on, and event bridge rules that will detect when you provision new AWS resources, and then will automatically protect those resources. So going back to what I said before, just protecting your resources in that single point of time is not enough. You need to know that it is continuous deployment based upon when you are deploying your resources. And of course, if you scale them back, then you are no longer charged for those sensors, only those running sensors. So to look briefly at what we have here, the first one is account registration. That's something that's going to come more into play when we release the proactive component. This already exists in our console. The rest of them are runtime, Falcon Cloud Security runtime features. So EC2 instance protection, again, with Systems Manager itself will see when a new EC2 instance goes online and will automatically deploy the sensor at that time. Again, cross-region, cross-account. Container registry assessments. If you want to do that container assessment, we recommend that you do. It's a very powerful tool. You can register all of your ECR repositories across all of your accounts inside of an organization, again, in just a single template deployment. And then finally, we have a Falcon operator deployment methodology that will enable you to deploy the operator once in an EKS cluster, and it will deploy the Falcon sensor. And we have a Falcon Kubernetes admission controller that allows you to create admission policies for those container images that we have done the assessment on. In that assessment, we're looking for different vulnerabilities or misconfigurations, and you can set your own threshold, determine whether you want to just prevent those or to alert on them, and so on. Now, for those of you who are building your own generative or agentic AI capabilities, so many of the tools used in building these applications in models, training models, and so on, are containerized, and many people pull those containers off of public repositories. This is one of the primary sources of malicious software, malicious tampering that we see in these, as a large AI security threat. So. Sending all of those images through that kind of container image assessment and then being able to set policy is going to be a critical part of your integrated AI strategy as well. If you'd like to get started, if you're not already a CrowdStrike customer, we have a QR code here on the left. Again, you can get started in minutes. Like I said before, that single listing includes both Falcon Cloud Security and SIEM. You could use any mix of those products that's relevant to you. Like Manoj mentioned before, if you use Falcon Cloud Security with SIEM, the storage of that Falcon Cloud Security data is all free storage. You can learn more about CrowdStrike Falcon for AWS. I'm not sure how that's different. But then the other one, CrowdStrike Falcon Next-Gen SIEM for AWS through AWS Marketplace. Are these all the same?
No, they're not.
Okay.
The first is a site where they can learn about AWS and Falcon integrations.
Okay.
And then the other is a blog on how to deploy CrowdStrike Falcon Next-Gen SIEM step by step.
Thank you for spelling that out. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. We're